Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 295. That's 292 weeks in a row. We've had lots of greats on here. Every week there's a great guest, and today we have another great. This is a young lady that I met, I think, right during COVID, where she was just starting to get into the business in a heavy way, and just to me took her business by storm. Really got serious about it, and it's Charity Misaudi. Welcome, Charity. Thank you so much for being here and taking the time out to join us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to get right into your story, our show, everything. But first, hit it, Nelson.
Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team.
Yes. We're brought to you by the Modern Agent team, but njheroesprogram.com, where we save veterans, healthcare workers, civil service workers, U.S. Postal Service, EMT, first responders. We save you all when you buy or sell a home, and we do that because we want to give back, and that's what we do. njheroesprogram.com. But today we have Charity Misaudi on with us, and we thank you so much. And before we get started with your story and your journey, Charity, I have one question that I ask to start every broadcast, and that is, what does TGIF stand for?
Thank God it's Friday.
Well, you're so close, Charity, and I hate to start off the broadcast with
you being incorrect.
There you go. Thank God it's finale. Right? She got it really quickly before we hit the buzzer. So we're
right in the buzzer. It still counts. I get my hat.
You got it. Anyway, so yes, thank God it's finale. I'm here. I've been doing this for a long time. I really enjoy doing this every week. I hope we're bringing as much value to the people watching this either live or later on as I get value, because I get so much out of every week, and I'm going to get so much out of today. So Charity, everybody has, they're doing stuff that's really cool, and you're doing some really good stuff. And we've started working a bit together on some things, a solo agent mastermind and some other things that we work on with our company and with, the fast forward movement, honey badgers, etc. And if anybody doesn't know who those are, please DM either of us, and we'll let you know how it all works and what it's all about. But you had a journey before that, before real estate, and what brought you that road, that path, that fork in the road, maybe, that got you where we are. Please let us know what your path was, so others can relate to where they are as well.
Yeah, perfect. And you hit the nail on the head. We met about 4 years ago. 2020 was my first full year in real estate. My dad is a general contractor. My brother's a general contractor. My husband does HVAC. I got my license to invest in real estate. I've been studying real estate investing since I was in my 20s, which was a while ago. And so I was working at the time at a software company, and essentially, director of operations systems, all that kind of sales. And I was intending to stay there, use my salary to fund, purchases and flips and all that kind of stuff. And then when I got my license, and I realized, this is pretty much having my own business. And I've always just ran everybody else's business and made them lots and lots of money. And I always increased our, revenue and our profit by 100% year over year. And so people loved me making money for them. And I realized I could do it for myself. So my big passion has always been building wealth through real estate in general, for me, for my family, generational wealth. But then being able to turn around and help others do that, both clients and help real estate agents find the freedom of entrepreneurship, right? Take those people who are the overachievers, people who have all that potential, but they don't know how to tap into it, and show them the way and what's possible. Because I just like when you buy your first house, you don't know that feeling until you've done it. You don't know the feeling of freedom until you have it. And it's something that I really love, helping people cross that bridge, who definitely deserve it, the hustlers, right? So I've been in sales for over 20 years. Both business to business sales and business to consumer, high level, thousands and thousands of contracts. I did the math at one point. I've met 1.5 million people in person in my life and talked to them. So I have met and talked to lots and lots and lots of people. And I love people. And so I'm glad that that whole journey has brought us to where we are now.
All right. So one of the things you saw about real estate as your business, I mean, you thought it should have been easier, right? And it really should be easy. I mean, I'm going to tell you that no matter what company you're with, getting started is always going to be like you're in this freaking cloud, and you get your license and you walk in and, oh, do this and do this and do this and do that, and then, oh, you'll make lots of money, and that's all bullshit, because that rarely happens, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, even joining our company EXP, I mean, it's funny because when I came over, we got all these emails that told us exactly what to do, and all we had to do was follow directions. How many of us actually did that? I didn't, and I got so confused. So
Yeah.
you've taken on, and you took on this an onboarding system. You took on a mentoring system. Talk about where your transition period, when you first got into business, and how you decided to do that.
Yeah, so I actually started at a bricks and mortar because, I had never heard of our current brokerage, EXP. And I looked around, I interviewed people, I had a full-time job. Again, I was going to hang my license and learn as much as I could. And I went to the place that was supposed to have the best training. And the onboarding process was just a nightmare. And I remember I'm in a tech company. So with tech, building software, one period is out of place, the whole thing goes down, right? So it's very organized, it's very systematized, which I love. I'm a big systems and process person. And coming into this business, and I was like, oh, I've been doing this for 20 something years. I create systems, I create processes. I'm good at sales. Lead generation is my specialty. Like, I'm going to crush this, right? And it was so all over the place, trying to figure out how things work, who does what, why do we do it that way? That doesn't seem to make sense. How many websites do we have? 60 separate apps and websites that we had to like log into. So, and I was working full time, right? I was doing it when I could in between. And so I was just so overwhelmed, and I'm thinking like, wow, if I'm overwhelmed, imagine people who don't have any experience in sales or business, or just ask questions until they go along. So, my big passion, I think I share this with you, is, to me, in my mind, someone who is willing to pay thousands of dollars to take the classes and get licensed, and willing to work for free until they make money. There had to be something there, right? There had to be a passion there at some point for people to be willing to do that. And
Right.
I feel like, our industry does not do a great job in helping those people map their previous skills to where they can be used in this industry.
That is really such a great point. This industry does not help you take what you've got and move it over to here. And we last week we had Tessa Sims on, and we talked about career transitioning, and that's exactly what our industry does really a shitty job at. Talk more about what you do.
Yeah, I mean, it took me a year with all of my experience. There's another piece that a lot of people don't think of or talk about, is the employee to entrepreneur leap. There is a lot of things that has to happen to become an entrepreneur. And I was the boss. I had 60 employees in several countries. Like, I know how to run things. But at that level, when you're even the boss, you're still an employee, and you have people you can delegate things to. You have systems already created that you're stepping into. You may improve them, but you're not starting from scratch. And then to go from that level, where everything is pretty much, on this day we do this, on this day we do this, on Wednesdays we're at pink, or whatever it is that your systems or processes are, to like, oh, no, now that's your job to create that for people. And you got to even understand what those are in the first place.
Yeah.
There's training all over the place, but it's not sequential. It's not in any kind of order.
Right.
And then it's like you have 101, like the basics, the outline, and then you got 201 and 301 in graduate level. And most people, when they're watching trainings from the experts, they're at graduate level. If you've never even taken the freshman level course, you have no idea what these people are talking about. It sounds like a good idea, but how could you even implement that, right? And so that was my big frustration, until I met someone, my sponsor, my mentor, Tina Call. And when I met her, I knew she was exactly what I needed, because her team at that time was selling 350 homes per year, where the average agent sells 3 to 4. maybe 6. And so I knew, I said, wow, if I can even take 10% of what she does, and I do 35 transactions per year, I need to be around the people who know what they're doing. To me, if you're selling more than 30 homes, there really doesn't make sense to be anywhere else except for EXP because you get all your money back. And if you're selling less than 30 homes, you should probably be around the people selling more than 30 homes, right? Like that was my mentality.
Really cool way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you know, I, again, never heard of EXP. I didn't really care. It could be ABC 1, 2, 3. As long as Tina's there, I'm going to go find the person that I want to be around. I could not join her team because of the laws of our state, but I didn't have to. I was able to benefit from all of her knowledge. She trained me for free, everything I learned. And a lot of what she helped do was believe in me before I believed in myself. She saw my potential and before I even saw, and she held that for me and like had the conversations about, you know, the personal development that I needed to do to take advantage of the skills I already had. It's not like I didn't have those skills before, but accessing those things, because when you're at the top and then now you're like at the bottom starting over again, you're like, I feel like I'm a smart person. Why can't I figure this out? Why am I not doing it at this level as this person who's been doing for 20 years? So there's a lot of self-doubt that fear is the number one thing that holds people back from being successful. And so everyone needs different levels of help and support to overcome those fears. Certain people, a very small percentage of people, you just tell them what to do and they go do it. I mean, that's like 5% of people. And I think that the most successful people are in that 5%. Those people tend to be our trainers and our team leaders. Right. They may not realize 95% of people are not like that. And that's where the frustration comes in. We're like, well, I didn't need that because you're very rare, but most people do. So if we have a 90% failure rate in our industry, like some people are just not cut out for real estate, and that's okay. Some people are not cut out for, it's just not for them. But if we can help at least get more people be successful, give them the opportunity, not do it for them, but just give them the opportunity. I think that's my big passion, is helping people be successful.
There's a lot of great things that come out of what you were just talking about. One of the things I want to go back to is when you're in this business, you know, you are responsible for yourself. You're an entrepreneur, but you're a business owner, right? Go from 9 to 5 employee to 9 to 9 business owner, or 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. business owner, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I have seen a lot in my career now, for me, you know, I was in construction, I was in property management, and came into the brokerage and did not realize a lot of things about real estate agents. But one of the things I do realize is that most of them don't understand that they are their own boss. But here's the kicker that you just brought up. You're the boss, but you're also an employee. And that is such a key note for most people to think about, where, look, I'm the boss. I say what goes. I'm also the employee. And if you look at yourself now, you know, there's these CEOs of big corporations that really aren't employees. They do whatever the hell they want, but they are running something, but they're also showing up, right? So as a boss, how good are you at running your business? If you suck as a boss, you're going to suck in real estate.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the 90% failure rate, that's a piece of it. Right.
It's not the real estate people struggle with. People don't struggle to open a lockbox. That's not the struggle. The struggle is in the business side. And that, a lot of that is soft skills that people don't focus on. Right. Time management being the number one. And it's such a catchphrase of time management, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we know we need to manage our time, but what does that mean specifically, right? And it's different. A lot of the trainings that I see or the recommendations are geared around people who, you know, have no kids, no family. They can get up at 7 a.m. and go to the office. Not everybody can do that. That's not realistic for most people. So again, taking the advice that's out there and making it specific to that person, in my mind, is what mentoring is, right? Like taking general advice and saying, okay, you need to spend X number of hours or X percentage of your time doing this type of work, because it's not that people aren't working. They're just working at the wrong things. And a lot of it is here. They're just worried about things. That doesn't count as work. I mean, it is work, but it doesn't count as income producing activities. And so we got to shift people's mindset away from my value comes from opening doors. I could pay anybody to open a door. That's not the value of what we do.
Yeah, you're not a doorman.
No, the value is knowing how to protect my clients from losing tens of thousands of dollars. Because at the end of the day, this is a financial transaction. And people who are in that financial transaction, the consumers, they want someone who can help them make the best decision so that they don't lose money. That's it. That's what we're doing here. So you have to look at real estate. You have to understand real estate as a financial piece. Where are the risks to your clients in different parts of the transaction based on your state rules and laws, because they're all very different. And you have to present that in advance. You need to learn how to communicate. You need to be on top of things. You need to be if a client is asking you questions, it's too late. You should, they'll always ask questions, but for the most part, you should be preempting that, which is where a good listing presentation and buyer's presentation comes in. And so many people are afraid to do these things because they're afraid for people to say, no, I don't want to work with you because that sounds too hard. But the reality is people like to be told what to expect. Nobody. Yeah.
No, exactly. And I think the way you do that is, I call it the question side of the sales side, right? So you can tell people everything, but who are you talking to? Are you talking to a sponge? Okay, you might be, right? Depending on what kind of personality they have. But most of the time, if you're doing your informational distribution to your client through questions about why do you think that's important, or how have you done this? Has there ever been a time? This is what I see, so on and so forth, right? And to put that basically in for the transaction. You also said something, about time management. And I have a unique look at time management, but we actually agree.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the phrase time management is bullshit. I don't think you can manage time. Yeah. What I do believe is that you can conceptualize and monetize your time by doing certain things. Like yesterday, I came on to do a session as you were finishing up, and you were talking about a schedule, right? You were talking about a time block schedule. To me, that is monetizing your time. That is systemizing what you do or what you have to do through managing. I'm sorry, I got to take that word off because I said it's bullshit. by actually, monitoring and monetizing what you're doing with your time. Does that make sense how I said it?
Yeah, I always say time, like money, goes where you tell it to go. You're directing time. Time will go where you tell it to go. And the thing is, it's a constant shift in priorities. Because this is what I find with most people. Number one, the amount of work that it takes to be successful is about 7 times more than they're thinking it's going to be. And they don't schedule time to do all of the things. I'm going to get up and make calls for an hour. Who are you going to call? With what system? Have you paid for it? Have you looked into it? What are you going to say? Where are those people? Well, what if they say yes? What are you going to say to them, right? There are a lot of, so then by the time you're actually making a call, you make one call and you're done because that's the hour that you've allocated. So one, we have to think. We get paid to think. As entrepreneurs, we get paid to think. We don't get paid to open doors, right? So the more you can sit with yourself or a mentor or both and say, what are all of the things that I have to do? And that's why it's hard when you're new, because you don't even know the things. How do you even know what to ask? Like, if you've never been in this industry, how did you know what farming a neighborhood is? How would you go to YouTube to find farming a neighborhood if you've never heard that term before, right? So you need someone in the beginning to say, here's all the possibilities, and then let's talk about what do you want to do, and then let's break that down into its smallest pieces. Let's put it onto your calendar, decide when you're going to do that. This is a high energy activity. This is a low energy activity. This requires a computer. This requires you to talk. So where in your schedule are you able to maybe throw these things in 10 or 15 and 20-minute increments? You don't have to be perfect all the time. But right. Just like a schedule and just like a script that people also avoid is that they think it's so rigid, but in reality, there's freedom. There's right. freedom in a schedule because I know what I have to do. I don't have to sit and think about it. I'm not wasting time trying to figure it out when I'm supposed to be doing it.
Right.
Then an emergency comes up. I need to quickly reprioritize, but I know that there's X amount of time that I need to spend doing this thing. I'm going to be able to reposition that, reprioritize. Same thing with scripts. I know exactly where I'm going with this conversation. We might go off on a tangent and I can put my spin on it, but I know the outline of where I should be. What should this look like? And that gives you confidence when you're speaking to clients, customers, and saying, this is what we're doing. If you don't know, they're going to know that you don't know. So your job as a real estate agent is to be a good real estate agent and then find people to convince them that you're the best real estate agent. Those are two separate jobs, right? And so a lot of people don't know how to position their time of how much of this do I do and how much of this do I do and what times do I do this versus do this? Who can I delegate things to? What kind of leverage? Because there's really only a few things of leverage. There's systems, processes, technology, and people. So if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing, you can't leverage out those things. So it all starts from the knowledge. It all starts from somebody being able to pour into you and say, here's a broad overview of everything. Don't get FOMO. Don't be afraid you're missing out on something or you've forgotten something. I promise you it's all here. And then you can only lead a horse to water, right? As much as I can give people, hand them all the things that took me years to figure out until they're willing to do the work. And that's not something I can help people do. At that point, I've given you everything. Now you have to make a decision that you're going to be serious about this and that you are motivated internally by whatever your goal is to do the hard work and face your fear and take one little tiny baby step every single day. I'll be here to support you, but I can't do it for you. And that's where the frustration comes in sometimes with mentoring.
Yeah, and I think the frustration too for the new agent, for the struck agent, and the agent trying to get going is they really have never understood what the definition of the job title or job description is. In my opinion, job description of a real estate agent is really simple. It's that you find buyers to buy homes, you find sellers to sell homes, and you write contracts. Okay, and you get them accepted, right? So
that's you manage the project, right?
Right. So you manage the contract, you manage the system to get it done, right? A lot of people have transaction coordination teams that do that for you, and that's pretty cool. But in the beginning, I think you should do it all yourselves to understand every piece of it. So then there's the real estate professional, right? So their job description is really simple. They have to be a real estate agent, which we just defined, right? A constant creator of relevant content, a technologist, right? And a few other things, but that's where it all comes in. So basically, when we're doing that, you've got to figure out all those things. Now, to get buyers and sellers, you've got to break that down to how are you going to do that?
Right.
That's
marketing. Yeah, marketing, branding, marketing, lead generation, and sales, those are all different things. They're related to each other, but there's multiple points of conversion. And every single point that you're talking about, every single word or phrase that you said has 100 points underneath it, right? We could deep dive into each thing. When I sit and show people like all the stuff I'm training new agents on, experienced agents are like, that's too much. I'm overwhelmed. I'm like, this because you know this stuff, right? When you're new, this is the first time people have heard it, right? And they're soaking it up and they want to know this information, because one thing I would add to what you said is the job of a professional, a business owner, an entrepreneur is to be a lifelong learner. So you're always beyond just doing the thing, you've also got to improve the thing, right? So, and that's a big piece that people miss. They don't track. They don't know their numbers. They don't know their closing ratios. They don't know what they are supposed to do to hit the numbers that they hit. And they don't know where they're failing along the process, because a couple of things you can do to make more money. You can increase your price point for the same amount of activity. Your commission will go up. You'll make more money.
Yep.
You can talk to more people. So that's extra effort, right? To increase that pipeline, that sales funnel. Or you can just get better at what you're doing and have a higher conversion rate. So the same amount of work, get better at it, you make more money, right? And so it's, or all three, right? Like you can do all three, but like, how do you even know where you're not doing well if you're not tracking what you're doing along the way?
Exactly. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier about boss employee.
Right.
Because the boss, I mean, let's face it, right? So the hardest example for me, the thing I still don't understand is how a restaurant knows what food to have on Friday night, February 2nd. How do they know? Because they've tracked everything that they've done in the past years. They know what they did last February 2nd, or if it was February 1st, whatever Friday it was. They know about what the weather's going to bring, right? They know exactly, if they've been doing it for a while, they've tracked everything.
Right.
Right.
Or in a science, right? It's a best guess because there may be snow on February 2nd. There wasn't last week. But again, there's kind of 4 principles here. There's plan, lead, order, control. These are the principles of business: plan, lead, order, control. And so a lot of real estate agents are good at have great personalities. They are highly charismatic. People want to follow them. And so they may be good at getting clients because of that personality type, but there's no planning. If you ask them how they did it, they have no idea, which means it's not duplicatable. They don't order, which means they don't track. They don't control. They don't go back and check. And they don't make new plans. So how you make new plans is based off the old plans and the results of the old plans. And you've got to, again, with time management, time, whatever you want to call it, time directing, you've got to have every first Monday, every whatever it is, you have to have that in your calendar of when am I going to check on these things? Because if it's not on a calendar, it's not going to happen. Your to-do list will never end. There's always more to do, but you have to make a conscious choice that even though this is boring and I hate looking at numbers, this is how we build our business. And this is an income generating activity because I'm going to make more money by sitting down and thinking. And sometimes it feels like you're going backwards to spend a day with your CFO or your accountant or bookkeeper to do forecasting, but it's like pulling the arrow back on a bow. Like it feels like you're going backwards, but when you release, you're going to be able to just go so far forward so quickly. And again, these are business principles that no one teaches real estate agents. It's not, I have 5 buckets. I call it the 5 buckets of knowledge, things that you have to do. Number 1 is the onboarding systems, processes, tools, right? That's a piece. And a lot of that is more heavy in the beginning. And then it just requires improvement over time. The second piece is I call an MBA crash course. You've got to know how to run a business. You have to know the roles of these C-suite executives that are required to run businesses and understand in a large company, the CEO is never the COO. Those are 2 separate personality types.
Oh, yeah.
Different, but you need both. Now you're being asked to do all of these things. You have no skill or you don't know how to do those things. The CFO, the CMO, these are the high level thinkers at the 50,000 feet. But don't get stuck at 50,000 feet because then you'll never do anything. You've got to get also the boots on the ground. It's a constant back and forth, which is why you feel like motion sickness, why there's the barf bags coming out, because you're constantly going back and forth between thinking about it, doing it, thinking about it, doing it, right? Then the third bucket is sales. Branding, marketing, lead generation, conversion, sales, communication, negotiations. And then you have working with buyers, which is the 4th bucket, and working with sellers, which is the 5th bucket. And you need to be good at all of those things and or find leverage to support you in the things that you may not be good at. But you first have to be aware that those are the things you need to be good at, right? So that's, I just think in systems, I think in folders, okay? File folders, which now are on my desk and like desktop as file folders. I have to, when I'm going to a training, especially like a conference or something, you'll have this guy over here talking about this topic, and then this girl over here talking about this topic that have nothing to do with each other. I need a bucket to put it into in my mind of, oh, that's a marketing conversation. Oh, that's a lead follow-up conversation. Oh, that's a best practices for my finances conversation, so that I can tuck it into that bucket and re-examine that when it's my time that I have set aside to look at my finances, to look at my lead generation strategy. I can pull those out and dive deeper into them. And that's a skill of learning how to learn. And again, with people coming into real estate in their 30s and older, sometimes we forget how to learn. It's been many years since we were learning in a learning mindset. So again, there's a lot of challenges that face new agents, and it's not one size fits all. And that's the struggle of kind of creating like a comprehensive here's our onboarding process to real estate. I mean, you can talk about generalities, but every person also needs that person in their corner to help them wrap their brain around all these new concepts. But if your mentor doesn't understand these things, how can your mentor help that person understand it? So I do, I train new agents, I train mentors, I do a mentor the mentor, I coach team leaders. I coach people who want to become team leaders, because again, when you become a team leader, now you're going to this level, and you've got to learn how to delegate. And that is a skill. Managing people is a skill, totally separate from real estate. So
100%.
we can talk for hours about this, I'm sure, but it's many pieces, and you have to have a clear view of the field, of where you're working, what are you working on, and who do I need to help me to hit the goals. And people are willing to help. People want to help, but you've got to be willing to do the work too, right? We can't do it for you. There, at this point, I'm trying to. My word for the year is lighthouse. I can be the lighthouse. I'm right here. I'm shining the light. I'll show you the way. But unless you are swimming towards the lighthouse, there's nothing I can do for you. I cannot also swim to get you and pull you to the lighthouse. So yeah, that's kind of like where I am with the mentoring and the coaching.
So great. So I want to throw another metaphor at you. As you use the lighthouse, there's also the tugboat, right? Do you want? I mean, there's a lot of mentors and coaches out there that would rather be the tugboat than the lighthouse. And what I mean by that is actually, ripping their hair out, trying to say, "Hey, let me go chase you to come swim to the lighthouse because it's there. Can't you see it?" And they're fighting against each other. The waves are going all over the place, and the tugboat's bouncing up and down, and it's almost impossible to help a lot of people. Is that because they enter the business with the wrong mindset, or a different elevation of a mindset, different level of a mindset, or they just don't want to do what we think they need to do?
No, I don't think I hear this a lot from people who are in positions to work with agents and try to help them, whether that's a team leader or a coach or a mentor or whatever the case may be. And it feels like, why won't they just do the thing when you're on this side of it? But a lot of people forget what it was like to be new, because a lot of these people in these positions have been in real estate for 10 plus years. This is before we even had the internet. Okay. So things are very different now. Right. And so it's a frustration only happens when expectations are not met and communicated. So you have this expectation from a team leader or a coach or whatever, who in their mind, everybody can do it. I heard another phrase that I've really been pondering on, and I don't know how much of this I really subscribe to, but the phrase is, there is no such thing as seeing somebody else's potential. All you see is what you would do in that situation. So you're looking at where they are, and you can see the path very clearly in front of them and what they should do. That's what you would do, but that may not be what they would do. And so management and leadership, again, which are two separate skills, is our role, again, the lighthouse is to support. And there was a little bit of a tugboat in that initially, but
Right.
Motivation has to come from within. And while we can't make someone be motivated, we can inspire people. Where this frustration a lot of times comes from is because people are financially in trouble if these people don't produce. Yes. So one of the things I have been very passionate about talking to people in these positions is understanding that your personal production is one business, your team income is a totally separate business. If your personal production is paying for your team, you are paying to be miserable. Yeah. This needs to be on track, and you need to be making money enough to live your lifestyle, that this does not go down by adding a team. You're not going to add a team to be your unpaid assistants. This is not what adding it. You have to come at this as a team leader of, you're here because you want to inspire and motivate and help people, and you have the resources available to make sure that this stays where it needs to stay. and you have the bandwidth to also bring people in, because it's a whole separate business. This is a brand new business, and you're going to have to do the startup and the contracts and the marketing and whose name does it go in and what are my splits. Like, this is a lot to think about when what tech do I use? How do I take systems that I just do instinctively because I've been doing it for years, and then now add a TC, an assistant, and a team member into it, and who does what and when and how? Those are things you have to think of before you have a team, or else it's going to be a total disaster. And you're relying on these people because you're giving them your leads. So you don't have leads. You're not making money over here. They don't know how to do it. So you're not making money over there. You're throwing money away. And that's very frustrating, right? But the reality is, all we can do is set this up correctly so that if the team is successful, it's successful. Taking the restaurant analogy, restaurants have to spend money to make money. That's different here because you're hiring salespeople without paying them, right? And so in restaurants, they have to plan lead order control, because if they don't, they're going to lose money. Here, because our effort is just kind of, we get paid on commission, people don't tend to think of money the same way, right? And so there's a lot of correlations between looking at what other businesses do in other industries, which is why I'm grateful that I didn't start in real estate. I've had different careers in different industries, and I'm able to see how people do things in other industries and how people do things here, and kind of see, oh, that's why that's the way that it is.
So would it be, so we talked about, an agent going to be a team leader and what's involved with that. And basically we talked a little bit about misunderstandings of what they have to do and what it means to grow a team. To me, what you just explained was, as a team leader, you're actually opening a brokerage, right? So it's a brokerage within the brokerage, which is really what it is.
Yeah. And that's what your team members expect. And that's that on the other side of that is, what's the expectations of the person coming in. Yes, those expectations are skewed as well, right? Those expectations, they think it's HGTV, they think it's selling sunset, and they don't know that they have to do sales. They think sales is a dirty word. So again, expectations must be communicated. And just because you say an expectation does not mean it was communicated. Communication occurs when the other person understands what you're saying and agrees to it, right? So even in a lot of the again, the communication with a new agent, whether you're their mentor or what have you, just like when you talk to your buyers and sellers, you have to say, okay, this is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
This is what I expect from you. Right. This is what you can expect from me. Here's the process of how, but again, if you don't have that, how can you say it to other people? So again, this goes back to being a leader of yourself, to be able to be a leader of others, whether that's a leader of your clients and your transactions or a leader of people. It is the same process where it all starts with you. Building yourself, improving yourself, your professional development, learning about real estate, learning about business, learning about sales, constantly committed to improvement, which looks messy all the time. It's always a mess behind the scenes. People think you're going to be perfect at it one day. It will never be perfect. You have to be comfortable with the imperfect and then take action. So again, we're kind of like throwing out all of the here because it's a lot, and that's why you're overwhelmed and confused as a new agent, because you're like, what do I do first, and how, and when, and how often, and personality type. They can take a little bit and go with it, or they need it like a checklist form. Again, you have to understand how people learn. You have to understand human behavior to be able to be successful in helping people build their own success.
I think the way you put everything is really important for agents themselves to look at what is going to make their life and their business better, right? So there are several people, well-known team leaders now, and one of them I'll drop a name, Kyle Whistle, right? The first thing Kyle did when he got into the real estate business, he hired an assistant. He didn't have any business. And I might be wrong. I don't think I am, but he hired an assistant because he didn't want to do all the bullshit, all the contracts. He didn't want to do all that. He wanted to go find transactions. He wanted to go do transactions. I'm not telling new agents to do that. What I'm telling you is this: get comfortable with doing one thing at a time. And then as you start growing your business, you know what? Instead of being a team leader or whatever, or hiring other agents, how about getting an assistant to help you maybe do your job better? Like you just said earlier, it's an avenue to take to be better at what you do. Because
a lot of people don't need a team; they need systems. They need systems and leverage, and they could double their production with less work if they had better systems. So before you go out and take on the responsibility of somebody that's their livelihood, right? Like when
Right.
somebody's counting on you as their team leader to help them get to where they need to be, and it's way less profitable to do that. Right? So like, why don't we max ourselves out using systems, leverage, technology tools, people that you can hire before you bring on an agent, and so that you have the freedom to still make money and then turn and focus your attention on helping those people. Yeah, that's a huge thing.
And I don't want to tell you that it can make your life easier. I mean, okay, so you know what, we both, I've been in business a long time. You've been in business, not as long, but you've seen a lot of, I don't know if you want to say mistakes or places where people got into trouble by doing too much, right? So I've talked
personal experience. I'm speaking from personal experience, right? Like, I mean, I will be the first to raise my hand and point to all the mistakes that I've made as a manager and a leader and been in trouble for and got called out for. And, I've had to make a decision to be honest with myself. Again, that personal self-reflection of where are my weaknesses? How do I address my weaknesses and not blame other people for things that went wrong? Because all I can control is myself.
That's right. And I want to address a different group of people. And that group of people are people that have been in the business for a while that might be considered stuck, but they're not actually, some of them could be stuck in not doing the business they want, but they also could be stuck in A, boredom, or B, they just don't want to do half the shit anymore, right? So, and that happens as a broker owner, truth be told, the reason I walked away from my brokerage was because I didn't want to work with people that didn't want to work anymore, because those are the people that 90% failure rate, but a lot of them stay in the business, but they're still failing. And B, I just didn't want to, I didn't want to do the bullshit work. I didn't want to oversee any of it anymore. I was done. And there's a lot of people like that don't want to do it from the beginning, which is where the assistant part comes in. And one of the things
Dan Beer said he's never done a transaction in his life. He got a transaction coordinator as his first hire. And I'm going to tell you, women dominate in this industry as solo agents, but you see a lot of the team leaders are men, because learning to divorce ourselves emotionally from feeling the need to be the end all be all, I am the one, the ego that comes with, I have to do the transaction myself. Is that what's best for your client? Like, if you're not good at administrative stuff, like, are you doing what's best for them, or is that going with your ego? Right? Like, so if, and this is the same thing with people who are hiring what's called a production partner or a showing assistant. And how do I explain to my clients that I won't be there to show them? They don't care. They just want to see the house, right? If you're just saying, hey, you know what? You're better served by me spending, 15 hours a week looking for buyers for our sellers and sellers for our buyers. Don't you think I should be looking for off-market properties for you so that you can get a better deal? That's the best use of my time. But right. I want to make sure that we are available to you when you need to see a house. So I have brought on my partner to do them. It's all how you spin it. And also a releasing the ego inside, because that's a lot of this stuff, the answers to the things that you're saying, it's all based on ego.
Yeah, and I know there's a lot of things in this business that a lot of people do not want to do. A lot of people did not get in this business to make phone calls. A lot of people get in this business to sell. And I use this expression, you can't judge a fish by their ability to climb a tree. I get that. But I will tell you that it is, to me, if you want to hire somebody to make the calls for you, I believe that that's a huge mistake.
I don't think you can do that.
And if you don't believe, but there's a lot of agents that want to do it.
I don't think you can do it if you haven't done it for yourself, because guess who you have to train? You've got to train them how to do it.
But they don't think they do.
I ran a team of ISAs. We had 7 cold callers. I brought in 5,000 leads a month. They had the exact same script. We brought them into a timeshare type presentation twice a week. We had an 80% closing ratio, but I started making those calls. I managed those people. I knew when they stopped doing their script. Like, you know what I mean? I have that experience. So a lot of people try and hand off the sales side. That's what you get paid for.
That's what you got.
If you don't want to make calls, I have a training called 130 ways to lead generate. There are many ways to generate leads that don't involve phone calls, but you still have to do the lead generation part. Now, you can find a way that works for you that's not cold calls, but it's not as predictable, right? It's not as consistent. As long as you're okay with that, you understand what your ROI of your time and your energy and your money is, and you're like, okay, I'm good with that, versus just thinking I'm going to just post on Facebook once a day and make $100,000 a year. That's not how it works.
No, that's not how
That's
it
not how
works.
any of this works, right?
I
But
just,
handing off things that are not income generating activities. The other mistake I see is people get assistants and TCs, and instead of taking that time that they've earned back to then now build their business, now they're doing nothing. And maybe that's just where they want to be in their life. Who are we to judge what people consider to be successful? Maybe you just want to work 10 hours a week and make $100,000. That's a pretty amazing hourly rate, right? Do you know
sure
what I
is.
mean?
It sure
And
is.
so what you do with the time that you get back with leverage is up to you. But if you really want to grow, leverage is meant to take things off of you that are not making you money so that you can take that time and do more things that make you money, right? So, and if you get systems in place, then you can do the same amount of work, be better at it, make more money. So you can, or do both, right? And if you want to just go get a massage every single day, I don't care. Whatever you do with your money is up to you, but at least you're going in with your eyes wide open of what it's going to take to be successful. How does this work for you? Which parts do you love about this business? Which parts do you hate? There is a place for everyone in this business. Like, I mean, if you just love doing paperwork, go be a TC, right? To understand though, this is how much you're going to make for that, because the money comes from sales. So the people who do the sales are the people who make the most amount of money. And you just have to understand where the value is. And that's why when we give referrals, we take a 25% referral fee, because getting the lead is the hard part, right? Converting the lead is the hard part. Showing the houses is not, that's the fun part. That's the stuff we get to do, right? So yeah, I mean, these are things I had to wrap my brain around. How does it work in this business compared to other businesses that I've been in? And that really took me a year. And I had to be around the best of the best to get those perspectives from her, which is why I just really encourage people. If you want to be successful, you need to be around successful people, because the conversations are just different.
So I want to give two quick scenarios to how to run your prospecting and lead gen. And one of the gentlemen that I learned this from is actually commented here, Robert Carbuccia, and he said that what he would do is every day he'd be on the phones, and he still does it. He's still on the phones. He's a coach, and what he does, what he told me was that when he got a qualified listing appointment, he took the rest of the day off. And I might be wrong, would not be completely totally correct, but he did that. But that was his process, right? If you look at Brian Danny, another great guy, great sales master, right? If you look at what he does, he's got his schedule set up, and I'm going to ask you his schedule in a second. He's got his schedule set up where he has non-negotiable times in the morning as it goes through that you're going to talk about in a second. And as that goes through, and then he says, if I do my job in the afternoon, I can go play golf, or I can go on appointments if I want. You can do whatever you want. And there's your freedom.
Yep.
There's your freedom that you want. For me, I'm doing this, I'm doing a lot of other things. And I've decided that what I'm doing, no matter what, is I'm going to make money, but I'm going to play golf. That's what I want to do. Right. So segueing into schedule, right? Yeah. You went into this yesterday in the session. So you do, first of all, tell people about the session you do, and then give them the schedule.
Yeah. So like I said, I've been training and mentoring new agents for years now. I mean, basically I started full-time in March of 2020. I started mentoring agents in October 2020, because I did 16 transactions my first year, and everybody's like, oh my God, what are you doing? I said, I don't know, just come on, I'll help you. Do you know what I mean? I have no idea. So I've had to run through this cycle of figuring out what am I doing and how can I teach it to people. Now I do, for our group, our Fast Forward Movement group, I do an 8-week session, an onboarding session for new agents of exactly what to do in the first 8 weeks, and what order to do them in, et cetera. So one of the big pieces yesterday was a productivity session. And the biggest piece is understanding your schedule. And again, like I said earlier, and what I said in the meeting yesterday is, just because I'm going to lay out this particular time schedule, it doesn't have to be during these times. It's less important that it's specific times as it is the amount of time. Right. One of the most successful agents in our market, Marty Hampton, she started, and she always tells a story that she was a single mom of 2 young kids. And she said, I could not make phone calls between 8 to 10 because I was taking my kids to school, but I did it every day from 4 to 6. So as long as you're doing it, it's less important when you do things as that you do things. And I promise you, if you follow a schedule where it's 2 hours a day of prospecting and 1 hour of follow-up, you will be ahead of 99.9% of other real estate agents, because most agents do not spend this much time prospecting at all. Okay. You will be in the top 1%. And what this looks like, ideally, you have your morning routine, which includes your personal and professional development. You have 30 minutes of script practice every single day with different agents. And that can be learning scripts, practicing scripts, handling objections, right? To get yourself primed and prepped to talk to clients and customers. And then you spend 2 hours prospecting. And I want to be very clear what prospecting is. That is reaching out to new business. It is not follow-up. This is very key. Oh, I've been following with my leads for, that's not prospecting. You're not moving your business forward. However, I do want to point out, you need to spend 1 hour of follow-up every single day, because the fortune is in the follow-up. 70% of your deals will come from follow-up, and most people are not going to convert until the 10th touch. So don't give up if they don't respond to you, right? Like, it's so understanding, kind of, again, this is me setting expectations for people. Like, you're not a crazy person. They don't answer the phone. This is normal. Just know you've got to do that level of work and you will be successful. There are 2 things, skill and will. If you don't have will, I can't help you. There's nothing I can do for you. But if you're out here doing the work and you're not converting, it's a skill problem. Let me listen to your phone calls. I don't know why Zoom is doing this. Let me listen to your phone calls. Let me, and this is not even Zoom. This is StreamYard. I have no idea.
I never saw that before.
Let me help you learn, because, conversion along the path that people don't think of, there's a conversion from the lead comes in to I'm able to get them on the phone. That is a conversion skill that people don't think, and that percentage will vary by lead type. You have to understand that if you're calling a Facebook or a Google PPC, it's like 1%. Do you know what I mean? Like, just expect that. If your sphere, it's going to be like 90%, right? So then from getting them on the phone to getting them to agree to meet with you, that's a conversion rate. To getting them from meeting with you to being able to agree to work with you with a buyer's agency or listing agreement, that's a skill. Getting them from being under a buyer's agency agreement or listing agreement to being under contract, that's a conversion skill, right? You have to convert people and manage all along, getting them from under contract to closing. That's a conversion skill. And so it's like, where are we falling? You might be really great on the phone call, but you're very weak in your listing presentation. So you can't convert. So what do we need to work on? We don't need to work on your initial call. We need to work on your listing presentation. But how do we know? Unless you track, unless you're keeping track of what you're doing. So personal development, at least an hour a day. What that looks like for you, totally up to you. 1 half an hour of script practicing, 2 hours of prospecting for new business, 1 hour of lead follow-up, maximum 1 hour of client work. It does not take that long per day to send emails. Please stop getting involved in that so far into your transactions. You don't need to do that. Then you spend 1 or 2 hours on prepping for your appointments, whether that's showings, listing appointments, buyers presentations. Then you spend 2 to 3 hours on those appointments. Then you go home, you have your family time, your routine, you plan for the next day. This is the key. You have to plan for the next day, and then you get up and execute. Because people do not spend time in the planning and they keep on trying to execute, and then it looks like a hot mess express, right? Okay, so the planning is the key. If you're spending 15 minutes at night saying, write out a list of all the things, I don't care if it's on a computer, on an app, whatever, I've got a piece of paper and I will just brainstorm, write out all the things, and I'm going to look at my calendar for the next day. I'm going to put it on there. I'm going to reprioritize as needed. I'm going to delegate to who can do what. And then I'm able to just focus on the things that make me money. So that's the key. And it sounds very easy, but it's not. But it's super doable as long as you commit to, this is how I'm going to run my business.
Right.
And this is the result that I want.
So I want everyone to take note of, this is all a schedule that Charity has just put out for you. And I think one of the things I learned from Brian Danny was that he schedules time with his family, but he also schedules his morning ritual. And in his schedule is actually when he takes a shower, right? Now, a lot of you don't have to do something like that. You think, oh, that's out of your mind. That's stupid. Well, it might be, but for him, it works. He plans his time with his wife, his time with his kids. And he has that 15 to 20-minute time at night, which is his night ritual, which he considers to be very, very important. I mentioned Brian because I think he's a whiz at sales and a whiz at sales mastery. Also, that next week, just to talk about next week really quickly, I'm going to be doing my show on location in Hollywood, California, is where I will be. I will be there at a sales mastery event, which is Wednesday and Thursday. And then Friday, I have some meetings. I'll be doing this broadcast. And then it's off with family. But next week we have Mark Perkins coming on, who's the CEO and principal broker of Pivot Realty Group. And that's going to be a fun show. Another great. And Charity, number one, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. On the screen right now, guys, you have Charity's Instagram and her contact information. Wait a minute. There it is. And I love StreamYard. Thanks so much for coming on. And I just have two more things. I know we're over on time, but that's okay. Two more things. Number one, how can I help you grow your business? What can I do?
I mean, I think the service that you're providing by doing this podcast is so huge. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, if you want to be successful, be around people who are successful, listen to people who are successful, an hour a day, dedicate time to listening to what people have done and then learning how to implement that in your business. So by doing this, you're providing this service that people can actually learn from people who've been where they want to be. So I would say keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for having me on. It's definitely an honor to be among those names of all the awesome people that you've had on here. I'm trying to get to those levels, right?
Well, you know what? And you are great. With the company that we're with and the people that we're with, and yes, we name dropped a lot of those people today because we admire them and we respect them. And life is all about respect. And, one of the things that I actually and absolutely respect is that, you know what? I knew you knew this, but let's respect the hat. So the hat is coming your way. Everybody gets a hat. It comes on the broadcast. Thank you so much.
These were our colors, by the way. I totally matched you without even knowing.
I know that. And with the whole layout too, everything matches. That's great. So anyway, we'll see everybody next week. Charity, just stay on one more minute after we go off. Everybody, we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Nelson, hit it.